This video is sponsored by Raycon. Hey, what's up you guys, it's me Luke and welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So typically I make commentary videos about influencers, YouTubers, and just a lot of drama and shit going on the internet. And for the past 2 months, I've just really been losing interest in a lot of those topics. I honestly just couldn't care less what's going on with Shane Dawson's latest video, or Tanya Reynolds' shitty perfume, or what the hell Lily Singh is saying on her terrible late night show. I just don't care anymore. And I've been forcing myself to make these videos for the past 2 months, and I've really been wanting to change my content, but really been scared to do so. And today I'm taking that leap, and I really hope that you guys enjoy this and are interested and keen in all the different type of content that I'm going to be making in 2020. I really just want to start making stuff that I enjoy making, stuff that I'm proud of, and stuff that really represents me. Because at the end of the day, what is important to me is not what I've been making videos about. What's important to me is film and TV and telling stories. If you don't know, I am an actor and I am also a film student, and these are where my passions lie. So I just don't understand why my YouTube channel hasn't been aligning with those. So today we're doing it. Today we are making my first video about film and TV. I mean, not really, because I've made videos about Riverdale where I was just kind of shitting on it. I'm still a salty little bitch who will roast something if it needs to be roasted. Do not get that twisted. It's not all going to be positivity and rainbows over here, but there will be some of that, because you know what? I'm not that negative all the time. Sometimes I like shit. So anyway, today we're going to be speaking about something that I actually enjoyed. We're going to be speaking about the Netflix show Sex Education, which was created by Laurie Nunn and stars Asa Butterfield, Emma McKay, and Nakati Gatwa, and so many other amazing actors. This show is amazing. So I'm going to be doing kind of a review, analysis / commentary about all the different themes and aspects and characters and just everything about the show. So if you have not watched the show, just to kind of give you a bit of a rundown as to what it is about, it is basically about these high school students. They're 16 years old, and the main character, Otis's mother, is a sex therapist. So as you can imagine, that creates a lot of funny situations, and Otis himself has never masturbated and just feels really awkward talking about sex and losing his virginity. So basically he goes to school and somehow he ends up running this kind of sex advice thing with this girl Maeve, and basically students at the school pay him to give them sex advice, and everything just kind of snowballs from there. The show is hilarious, it's heartwarming, it addresses so many issues in a comedic yet serious way. It's got an amazing diverse cast. I have nothing but good things to say about the show, and I highly recommend you watch it. I think that no matter who you are, you will find something in the show to relate to. It just addresses so many present themes and issues that we are dealing with currently. No matter who you are, what your sexuality is, what your race is, what your gender is, what your age is, I feel like anyone could relate to some aspect. Just to name a few of the issues that it explores, we've got sexual orientation, sexual assault, abortions, consent, STDs, divorce, masturbation, self-harm, peer pressure, parental pressure, adoption, and self-identity, and just so much more. So I highly recommend you check it out if you have not already, because from this point onwards in the video, we will be jumping straight into my spoilery discussion / analysis of the show. Alrighty guys, so let's get into season 2 of Sex Education. Now, season 1 for me was really great. I really enjoyed it, but just didn't quite stick with me as much as this season did. I did enjoy it nevertheless, so of course when it was coming out, I was straight on that, more than willing to go ahead and dive straight into this, and I just really took it in and really enjoyed my time with it and my time with these characters, because I think that the show has such an amazing cast, and it just tells so many intricate, funny, charming, and heartwarming stories. So I think what I'm going to do with this video is kind of go down a list of characters and speak about all the different themes and issues that go along with those characters, and then kind of like tie it all together. So first off, let's start with our main character, Otis. Asa Butterfield played Otis so well. He was so believable as this kind of awkward, dorky, yet caring teen, and I just really related to him on a lot of levels. I think the show as a whole is something that I really wish was out when I was the age of these characters, because I think it would have been really helpful, and I think this is such a great show for teens to watch, to feel less alone, because sex education and sex in general is just kind of a taboo topic that people don't really discuss at that age until you get a bit older, when that's really when you need to be talking about it, because that's when you're kind of going through it. You know, you're going through puberty, you have your hormones, you have all this type of shit. So I think that this is just such a great show for teens, and I think it handles so many different issues in such interesting ways, which we'll get into. But anyway, back to Otis. So I really liked Otis's character. Obviously there were times where I was mad at him, at like a lot of characters, like the scene where he's at his party and he gets drunk and he's basically basically slagging off Maeve, and he's just saying all these horrible things about them. Obviously, he's very apologetic afterwards, but besides that, I found him to be a very enjoyable character, a very relatable character, and Asa just really helped bring this character to life. I honestly felt like that was me when I was a teen. And I just love how the show can do something so unrealistic, like in the premiere of the season where Otis has discovered the joys of masturbation and is basically just whacking off everywhere, even in his mom's car. It's hard to describe. Like, it has all these outlandish comedic things, yet it feels so realistic and down to earth at the same time. I think it's really hard to strike that balance, but somehow they manage to do it. I love that so much. But anyway, Otis himself deals with a lot of things, like, you know, coming to terms with his sexuality, masturbation. Obviously, sex for him is a kind of a tricky thing, given that his mom is a sex therapist. He's kind of like the polar opposite, where she's super liberated with her sexuality. He's a lot more shy about it, and it takes him a while to kind of get into it, which I think is nice, because a lot of the times in shows you see a lot of male characters where they're just all about, you know, getting it on, losing their virginity, having sex, doing it straight away. And it was nice and refreshing to see a male character who was nervous about it and who needed to take his time with it. And I just thought that was a really nice story to tell. Beyond that, the character of Otis deals with other issues like having divorced parents, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, and a father that he doesn't want to end up like. So I think there's a lot there, and I think he's just a really great glue that kind of holds the show together. So that being said, moving on to our next character, Maeve Wiley, who is possibly one of my favorite characters in the show. I love Maeve so much, and I related to her character so incredibly much. She deals with a lot of tough stuff this season. In the previous season, she got expelled from school, and this time she deals with her mother, who comes back in town, and her mother is a drug addict who is supposedly recovered, and she kind of deals with all of this type of stuff, like trying to let her mother back into her life, and then realizing that her mother is lying about going to work and lying about still being on drugs, and all these different things that she has to deal with. And eventually she calls child protection services on her little sister, and this entire storyline with Maeve just really hit home. I got really emotional in the scene in the final episode when she calls child services and they come, and her mother says that she'll never forgive her, because I just felt like that entire storyline just really hit close to home. And I think Maeve is just such an interesting character because she gives off this hard, tough facade, and I think the actress, by the way, who is Emma McKay, plays it off so well, because even though she's giving this tough exterior, you can see in her eyes that she's really struggling but trying her best to hold it together. And I just love Maeve so much, and her relationship with Otis is so heartbreaking this season because she never revealed her true feelings about him in the first season, and then when she reveals them in the second season, he's dating Ola, which presents a whole nother series of issues, because then Otis is stuck in whether he wants to be with Ola or with Maeve, and it's just a really heartbreaking thing that we have to deal with. And I just want these two to be happy, but I just know that's not going to happen because that's not the way the TV shows work. And I just think Maeve really came into her own in this season. I just related to her story so much. Somebody from a tough background who does well at school but has all these distractions, and it's just, I think Emma McKay is an amazing actress, and the character of Maeve Wiley is just so multidimensional, and I just loved her. Anyway, moving on to the next character, who I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead and speak about Ola, who is played by Patricia Allison. And I really was not a fan of Ola. I feel like it's mainly just because I was biased, because I really love Maeve and Otis and wanted them to be together, and Ola for me was kind of just like in the way. I don't know, for some reason to me in the beginning of the season, she just was not likable to me. But once her and Otis broke up, which I do feel bad for her because Otis was kind of a dick to her, I really started loving her character. She is so quirky and spunky, and when she starts coming to terms with her sexuality, her being pansexual and trying things with a girl, I thought that was such a cool storyline because her character wasn't dealing with the shame of it. She was just dealing with it being a cool and positive thing. And I think having sex exploration and exploring your sexuality without all that shame is such an important story to tell. And of course, they also have the flip side of that with Adam, who deals with the shame and everything. But I think it's good to show that exploring your sexuality doesn't always have to be a shameful, difficult thing. Sometimes it can be fun. So I really appreciated Ola's character in kind of the latter half of the season. Moving on to another one of my favorites, Eric, who is played by Nakati Gatwa. And Eric is honestly the heart of the show. He is such a lovable, funny character. He's the definition of different and quirky. Like, his fashion sense to me is so ugly but so beautiful at the same time. I just love him. His laugh is infectious, and I just think he's such a great friend to Otis, and he's just so lively and positive, and I love him. But beyond that, he deals with a lot of tough things. He dealt with a lot of tough things in the first season. He already knew he was gay and stuff like that, but he had to deal with, you know, his family accepting him and, you know, dealing with being bullied because of it. And I think in season 2, he really got to be 100% unapologetically himself, which I love. His family accepted him, and he fully accepted and loved himself, and he just really thrived in the season. However, when it comes to Eric's storyline, I think he really struggled with this relationship that he was having with this new character who came to school, Raheem. I really enjoyed Raheem, to be honest. Like in the beginning of the series, I thought that Raheem was really cool and different. I loved how confident he was in himself and his sexuality and his attraction and interest in Eric. He was so smooth and classy, and he just had this confidence about him that was just so sexy. And I thought that his relationship with Eric, although not my favorite, was really interesting. However, his character did kind of start to bother me a little bit when he went to church with Eric and he kind of spoke a bit negatively about Eric's religion and his family's religion. Now, I'm not really a religious person myself. However, I do believe that it's important to respect other people's beliefs. So that did kind of bother me. However, I did feel kind of bad for him when Eric was getting more involved with Adam, and I just don't think that Eric was very fair to Raheem. I feel like he should have left Raheem instead of kind of cheating on him, for lack of a better word, which is what he essentially was doing with Adam. But anyway, moving on to Adam Groff, who I was not a fan of Adam in the first season. Obviously, in the first season, he was just a dick. He pretty much just bullied Eric the entire time until the final episode where he reveals his true feelings to Eric by giving him a blowjob. But beyond that, I think Adam's story is one that a lot of people will be able to relate to, dealing with the shame of his sexuality and coming to terms with it. And he has such an interesting story. His family is so depressing. His father and his mother's relationship is on the brinks of death. His relationship with his father is really not good. This family just seems so disconnected. Adam is a character that I really started to enjoy more in the season because we really got to see a more humanized, vulnerable version of him. Obviously, in the beginning of the season, he started off in the military school that his dad sent him to, but once he got out of there, which obviously was not under good circumstances, he gets a job and he's back in town. And I really loved all the sequences where he was throwing rocks at Eric's window and they went to that little field and broke stuff together. And I just thought that the actor, who by the way is Connor Sundles, played Adam so well, because I think it's so difficult for somebody to play a character. He doesn't wear his emotions on his face very often, but when he does, it's in a very subtle manner that is so much more powerful because of that. And I think this character coming to terms with his feelings and his sexuality for Eric was so beautiful and tough to watch. But by the end of the season, when he declares his love or his feelings for Eric in front of this entire audience at the school play, I just think it makes that scene so much more impactful because of everything that's happened in the rest of the series. And Adam is just such a touching character that I didn't expect to like. That scene where he lost his job and Ola defended him and said, "Oh, I love you like a friend, you're my friend." When he said, "Nobody's ever said that to me before," my heart just broke because I was like, this poor guy, his emotions and his feelings are so blocked off. He's walking around this earth like a robot. And I just really hope that in season 3, we finally get to see him have more feelings, you know what I mean? Beyond that, he also deals with his parents. So his parents get a divorce because their relationship has lost its spark. I think in season 2, they did a really great job of not only focusing on the teenagers and their relationships, but also focusing on the parents and theirs, which I think is great because that just allows for more people to be able to watch the show and relate to it. Anyway, speaking of parental relationships, we have Otis's mom, who is Jeanne, who is played by Gillian Anderson, who gave an outstanding performance this season. She is the sex therapist, and basically the school has an outbreak of chlamydia, which was really funny, to be honest, and she is hired to give proper sex education in the school. And I think that that was just so funny, you know, having Otis's mom at the school. It created so many comedic moments for Otis, and I just found it so enjoyable to watch. And the character herself was just so pleasant and funny, and she was dealing with her own things. I think that her character was really interesting in the fact that she had this relationship with Jakob, who is Ola's father, which created a whole lot of funny scenarios in of it itself, because Otis is dating the daughter of the guy who is dating his mom, which is just obviously a mess. But her relationship with Jakob is really interesting because the second the relationship starts getting too serious, she almost starts creating problems. She gets frustrated with every little thing that he does, gets frustrated with him being around, and I think she has to come to terms with the fact that she's in a serious relationship and she hasn't been in one in a while, and she doesn't know how to feel about it, because obviously the last one she was in, which was with Otis's father, did not go well. And then she cheats on Jakob with Otis's father, and then poor Jakob is heartbroken and he doesn't want to get back together with her, and then she's pregnant with his child. So there's a lot going on there, and I really liked Jakob. He was even so pleasant regardless of how rude Otis was to him, and I really hope we see a lot more of him in season 3. I'm really curious as to what's going to happen with him and Jeanne, if they're going to get back together, if they're going to have the baby. But beyond that, I think that him dating Otis's mom and all the different scenes where obviously Otis is struggling because like he doesn't want a new dad, that he feels like he's replacing his dad, which I think a lot of people can relate to, and I thought that was done really well, although Otis was really pissing me off because I felt like he was being extremely childish, but then I had to remind myself that he's only 16. But all of that to me was just really funny and I think handled really well. But there was this one scene that really struck out to me where Jeanne finds out that Otis has been selling sex advice at the school, and there's this scene where they're sitting down in her office and she asks Otis to tell her the truth, and he lies to her face. And when he finally tells her the truth, you can just see in her face how disappointed and heartbroken she is that he's been doing this and that he lied to her. And she really doesn't let him off the hook. You know, I feel like a lot of the times parents can just let their children off the hook for doing horrible things, but she raised him and she's disappointed with his actions. And I think that scene of her and just the pain in her eyes as the tears started to well, I just think it was an outstanding performance. She is a great actress. I'm really interested to see everything else that she does in the next season. Anyway, moving on to another character, Jackson Marchetti. So I think Jackson Marchetti in the first season really did not do much for me. He had his relationship with Maeve, he was the jock, and I never liked the jock. And this season, he really had a lot more to work with. He was just so much more interesting. So the character himself is interesting off the bat because, I mean, he has two lesbian mothers, which is obviously not something you see every day. And one of his mothers is his biological mother, and the other one is his adopted mother, and it's a biracial relationship. So there's just a lot to work with there. And by the end, there's this really interesting scene where Jackson confronts his non-biological mother, saying how he feels like she's always compensating for the fact that she's not his biological mother. And that was really interesting to me. I mean, I personally am not adopted, but there are obviously people out there who are. So I think that that could be a really interesting and relatable scene for a lot of people to watch. And I think beyond that, something that was really interesting to me, how he felt that he had such an intense pressure to swim because it's what his parents wanted him to do. He had this really intense parental pressure, which I think a lot of people can relate to. It was just really heartbreaking that he harmed himself. He put his hands in between the weights so he would have an excuse not to swim anymore. And to see his journey in the season, I really came to enjoy him as a character, and really liked how he put himself out of his comfort zone by doing the school play, even though he was getting a lot of ridicule for it and a lot of people making fun of him for it. I loved his arc, and especially his friendship and possibly relationship with Viv, who is played by Shanae Iziadu, and she's just a really great addition to the show. I loved Viv's character. She started off being such a hard nut, but throughout the season she really softens up. At first she has this agreement with Jackson where she will tutor him and help him learn lines for the Shakespeare play if he helps her get this guy, and then by the end she realizes that the guy that she wanted was a dick all along. And by the end, when he's on stage and she's helping him by saying his lines, I just thought that was really adorable. And I think that they had a lot of ups and downs in their relationship and their friendship, but I thought it was really touching and really different from relationships that we see typically. So I'm really excited to see what progresses with them and Jackson as a character in general. Alrighty, so moving on to one of the most precious characters in the show, Amy Gibbs, who is played by Amy Lau Wood. So Amy in the first season didn't really do much. She was kind of just a quirky, lovable friend to Maeve, and in this season she deals with something that I'm sure a lot of people, especially women, can relate to. So she catches the bus one day and she is sexually assaulted. This man releases himself onto her, and at first the show plays it off in a comedic way, but not a way that's insensitive, more in a way where Amy is naive or in denial as to what's happened, and she almost downplays it. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. A lot of people downplay stuff that men do because they're like, oh, it's just boys being boys or men being men. But Maeve is like, no, you cannot let him get away with this. So Maeve takes her to the police station, and she goes through this really interesting journey throughout the series where she starts to really come to terms with what happened to her. It really debilitates her. She can no longer catch the bus because she keeps imagining this guy even though he's not there, and she's too scared to go on the bus anymore. Something that this disgusting man did to her has affected her in this way. So she walks to school. She can't be intimate with her boyfriend anymore. She needs space. She's really traumatized by this sexual assault. And by the end of the series, she opens up about it finally to the other girls. And we get this really touching episode where the girls of this series are forced to be together in one room by a teacher who's like giving them detention. And the girls have to find something that they all have in common with together, which they struggle to do because they all fight and they bicker and they have different interests. But the one thing that kind of unites them all is being women and dealing with the struggles that women face, which a lot of the times is sexual assault and sexual harassment by men. Hearing all those girls' stories and seeing them together go on the bus with Amy to comfort her and overcome her fear, and just being there for her, and seeing these girls put their different differences aside and come together. And the woman empowerment that we saw in the scene, I just thought it was beautiful and so touching, and I'm sure so many women will really love and appreciate this scene. I think it was such a beautiful story, handled so well by the writers of the show, the way that they were able to start it off comedic and then have all these different notes. I don't know how they did it. They really did it in such an amazing way, and I really appreciated that storyline, and I really have come to love Amy as a character. Anyways, so moving on to another character, we have Lily Inglot, who is played by Tanya Reynolds. So Lily in the first season didn't really have much going on as well. She was really focused on just trying to lose her virginity, and at one point she almost does with Otis, but then it doesn't go through. And then in this season, she is a friend to Ola and eventually becomes a romantic interest to Ola. So Ola kisses Lily, and Lily doesn't really know how to feel about it, and she stops talking to Ola for a while and kind of pushes her out, but then they start talking together again and they explore their sexuality together, and I thought that that was just really beautiful. Something I really liked about the show that is really different and I haven't seen in a lot of shows is the exploration of female sexuality. I feel like a lot of shows dealing with coming of age and puberty and growing up, they always talk about boys being horny and boys masturbating and blah blah blah, but this show, I felt like it did it equally. We got scenes where, you know, there were girls speaking about pleasuring themselves and dealing with their sexuality, and I just thought that that was so amazing because I feel like there is a huge stigma around women touching themselves. So I just think that it'll help destigmatize women's sexuality, and I feel like the way that they depicted that through Ola and Lily was so quirky and funny and touching, but impactful at the same time, and I really love Ola and Lily together. I'm really excited to see their relationship progress, and I just think that Lily herself is such a funny character. She's so like different from any character I've ever seen in a show. But anyway, I'm going to speak about the final character, who is the one that I just dislike the most. So this is Isaac, who is played by George Robinson, and Isaac comes in to town and moves in to the trailer park where Maeve lives, and you know, at first I didn't really know what to think of him. He came across as really arrogant to me, and he was very unlikable to me. He was talking negatively about Otis, and he was very invasive into Maeve's life. Do not get me wrong, I do like that he helped Maeve realize, you know, that her mother was still using and not going to work, but by the end of it, when Otis comes and he wants to declare his feelings for Maeve, and Isaac meddles by telling him, oh, I don't know where she went, she's not going to be back for a while, even though she literally just left to go to the grocery store. And then he goes on Maeve's phone and listens to her voicemails and deletes the one from Otis where he confesses his feelings for her. Speak about an invasion of privacy and a toxic relationship. I can already see what's going to happen in season 3. I think that Isaac is going to try get it on with Maeve, and I feel like they're probably going to like date for a little bit or whatever, or just have a weird friendship, but whatever it is, it's going to be toxic because of what he has done, and it's going to create all these different issues with Maeve and Otis, and it's going to be so long until they can be together, and it's going to be so heart-wrenching, but at the end of the day, I cannot wait to see it. Anyway guys, I feel like I've been rambling for ages. I don't even know if it was comprehensible because I pretty much just wanted to gush. I really love all of these characters. There's something about every single one of them that I enjoy, even characters that I didn't get to discuss because there's just that many of them. Something that I really love about this show is it is such a large, diverse cast. I feel like a lot of the times you have these tropey characters in shows, but this show, it does not feel that way. All of these characters feel like fresh, new characters that I cannot compare to other characters in other shows. I think that's what really holds the show together, and I think what I really loved about season 2 is it was mainly about the characters. It felt a lot like an ensemble and exploring all these different characters and all their different issues and all their different quirks. It's so diverse. I feel like the show has something for everyone, and that is amazing. You don't get that in a lot of shows. I love this show so much. I would love to know who your favorite character is and why, and which character you related to the most. Before today's video ends, I would just like to go ahead and thank our sponsor, Raycon. These stylish and discreet wireless earbuds were co-founded by Ray J and are loved by the likes of celebs like Snoop Dogg and Cardi B, and now me. So Raycon sent me their latest wireless earbuds, the E25, a couple weeks ago, and I've been loving them for whenever I'm editing or going for a walk or at the gym, because they have 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a compact design that gives a noise isolating fit. Unlike other wireless options, Raycon has no dangling wires or stems, and they come with a variety of fits so that they're super comfortable comfortable in your ear. They also offer a variety of colors and patterns so you can choose what suits your style. Raycon's wireless earbuds are half the price of those other wireless earbuds on the market, and if you go ahead and click the link in the description of this video below, then you can go ahead and score yourself 15% off. Thanks, Raycon. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys thought of it, and if you want me to do more videos like this. This was me just kind of testing the waters. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you thought of it, and if you've not already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the post notifications bell so that you never miss another upload. And if you've not already, be sure to go ahead and follow me on my social media. It's just linked down below, as well as my merch if you want to check it out. It's all about being opinionated. And yeah, guys, that's it for me in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you in my next one. And as always, I hope that you have a great day or night wherever you're in the world. Bye.